We're going to look at the offset flange. So I have this drawn in 3D here for you, and we're going to create a 2D image of it with a section view, and then we'll fully dimension the part. So the first thing that I want to do is we're going to go ahead and draw it as if we're looking at it straight on from that front view. So everything's going to be in that circular view. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my circle. And I'm going to start with this outside circle, which has a diameter of 150 millimeters. And then our second circle here has a diameter of 50, and then you'll see a diameter of 75. What that means is the inside circle or hole goes all the way through our object, and it's a diameter of 50. Our outside object is a diameter of 75, and it only goes down a depth of 6.4. So we don't have to worry about our depth yet, but we do have to worry about both our sizes. So we'll go ahead and grab our circle, put our 75, and then also grab our circle and put in our 50. And these go all the way through our object. We'll also see that on the back side, we have a diameter of 100. So let's go ahead and put that in. So as not to get too many circles on here, because then we also have this circle here, which is offset. You could also stop here and finish this part, but I'm going to go ahead and continue, and you'll see how it's drawn as we go. Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you that might be a little bit easier is, since we know this one right here, this 100 we just created, which is this one right here, is going to be a hidden line, because if you look at it from the front, you're not going to be able to see it. So it may be a good idea to go ahead and make that a hidden line. If you don't have your layers created, all you have to do is go to your layer properties, and we'll go ahead and create a hidden line, and we'll just add the items as we need them. And I'm actually going to make this orange. And then don't forget, you have to change your line type. So we're going to go to load, go down here to our hidden, and make sure we select hidden, otherwise continuous is going to stay. All right, and then I'm just going to select this one. Since we already have it drawn, I can select it, do my drop-down menu, and choose hidden. And that way we can kind of distinguish from what we're looking at versus what's behind. So I'm going to go ahead and put this larger cylinder in, and in the back, if you look at it, it is a size of, let's see, 200. There we go, 200. So let's choose our circle command. And this one's a little bit different because the center, this is an offset flange. So the center of our back piece here is located right here. So at the top of that cylinder. So we're just going to grab our circle, and at the top of this cylinder, that's our center point. We're going to go ahead and create that 200 sized piece there. Okay, so that's that piece there. And then let's go ahead and start adding our detail. So we're going to go ahead and grab our circular command here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes that are going around this back piece here. So I'm going to use, actually, I'm going to put my first circle in, and I'm going to align it with right here. This is the one I'm going to put in, because then when we array our pattern, we're going to array counterclockwise and only array 5 items. So we'll go ahead and select our circle. And again, we're going to line it up at the quadrant here. We don't know the exact location because it looks to me like I didn't put my dimension in, but it should be, let's see here, from the book, it's 75 millimeters from this center point. So I can do my snap from feature, which I don't seem to have up. So let's go to our tools, toolbars, AutoCAD. And let's do our object snap. And for some, there we go. I was gonna say, for some reason, it ended up on my other screen. Let's go ahead and put that in there. Okay, so I'm going to do my snap from. I'm going to snap from this location here, the center of my circle here. Put my @ symbol, and I'm moving to the right 75 millimeters. And there's that location of my hole there. And again, I did not have that dimension on this piece here, but it is in your textbook. So let's go ahead and add our hole size, which is 19 millimeters. And then we're going to go to our circular array. We're going to select our objects and hit enter. And specify our center of our larger circle. And then we're going to change our items to 5. And we're going to change it from 360 degrees all the way around to 180. So it's only filling up this left-hand side, or from the center counterclockwise to this left-hand circle. And that puts in our extra holes there. And then we're going to do the same thing on our front feature, but if you see on our front feature, we have 5 holes that are all the way around, so we'll leave it at 360. So let's get our first hole in. And I'm going to I'm looking at this and it's aligned with the top circle here, especially if you take a look at your textbook. So this is the hole we're going to put in. And it looks to me like in the textbook, again, I don't have it on my drawing here. It looks to me like it's aligned on a 125 diameter circle, so 62.5. So we'll do our snap from. And 62.5 is just half of 125. Put our at symbol. We're not going left or right. We're actually going straight up. So we'll put our 0, comma, 62.5. And there's the center of our circle. And we can go ahead and put the size, and in this case, it looks like it's 9.5. We'll do our array, select our circle, hit enter, select our center location, and you'll see 6 is the default, but we're going to change that to 5, and then select close. So that's everything that we would need at this point. Now, one thing you will notice is we have some things, for example, this circle here, we do see this outer arc, but the arc in here, we actually don't see. So we're going to have to trim that component off. Let's get rid of that. But we have to still show it. So you can do this in one of 2 ways. You could create an arc using endpoint, in your center, or if you want to, sometimes I find it just quicker to just create a new circle that's a hidden line, and then go ahead and trim the excess. There we go. So there's that hidden line coming through, and there's my circles here. We're not going to worry, circles meaning holes. We're not going to worry about our dimensions or anything like this. So if we were going to create a side view of this to show additional information, because we don't know widths of any of these, I'm going to create a construction line. I'm going to make it solid. Oops, let's put our gray color in there and then make it solid. You get that object line. And again, I don't particularly like using construction lines. I just use individual lines, but you could do whichever is best. Whoops, let's change it to our construction line. From our quadrant, let's slide it over. From our quadrant, slide it over. And you can keep them all aligned if you want to. Doesn't really matter because they won't be visible. All of our quadrants we have to show over here. So let's just keep repeating as we go. Now, if you find it easier not to do all of them at once, you certainly do not have to. So you could do just the larger circle first and get its width in. Then you could do that smaller offset circle right here and get its width in. But for me, I like to go ahead and put them all in at once. But again, that is personal preference. All right, got a couple more here. I'm going to go ahead and change to my object line. And I'm just going to create that full size, because remember, when we look at rectangles from the side, they are rectangles. When we look at our circles, our holes, our cylinders from the side, they look like rectangles. Sorry about that. So the width of this is 25.4. So I could just go from here and I can move in my 25.4. Then I'm going to bring this down to my first line. Now, this is where you have to be very careful because this first line is this outside circle here. And we actually want to get all the way into that inside connecting piece. So that's where that green, or excuse me, the orange cylinder is. So we'll bring that straight down. And it looks to me like the length of that, when I look in my book, let's see, the overall width of the whole piece is 100, but both of these pieces, this one here and this one here is 25.4. So all you have to do is take, let's double check that, yes, our 100 and subtract 25.4. Excuse me, actually not 25.4, 25.4 twice. So we end up with 49.2. So we'll just drag this out to 49.2. And then we'll drag this down, and this would go all the way down to the other side of our part. And let's bring it back. And again, we have to look at, does it go all the way back? Nope, it aligns with that piece there. And then I'm going to bring this straight down because there's the other side of this. And again, this is an offset flange. That's why it looks a little bit, it doesn't look straight on because it shouldn't be. Okay. So now I can deal with this one here. So if you want to, here's one where if you wanted to erase the lines, you could. I don't particularly like that, but at least if it helps you visualize better, you could. So let's go ahead and make this piece here. And if I select my line, I'm going to start right here. So we'll click here and drag it straight up. And the width of this one is also 25.4. We're going to go all the way down to the other side of that cylinder shape and then back up. There's our piece so far. Okay. And then we have this piece in here. Now this hole here, when you're looking at it from the side, you don't see this hole because it's dropped back in that 25, or excuse me, that 6.4, I believe it is. So we're going to change to our hidden line. And here is our first line, and it goes down in 6.4. Go all the way over to our other line that matches with the other side of the quadrant here. Go back up. And the same thing with our cylinder or our hole that goes all the way through. Doesn't start out here because there's no hole here. It starts right here and goes all the way through. Make sure I select the, oops. Good thing I took a look at that because this one went down too far. Should actually be right here. And we'll do the same thing with that. We'll just move those grips. That's why I don't like erasing my construction lines because it's really easy to make a mistake. And this way you can see your mistake before. Okay, so we're almost finished because when we look at this big cylinder here, the other side of this piece right here is a hidden line. There's something there, but you just don't see it. So we want to add the hidden line here as well. Okay. And so far, that's what our part looks like. Let's take our construction lines off. And that's how you would draw this component from the side view. But you can see there's a lot of information we don't have done yet. We don't have these holes in. And if I came in here, let's turn that construction line back on and added construction lines for every single one of these holes. Let's do this one first because we'll be utilizing this one. You could see how it would be very difficult. Oops. Oh, it rotated my quadrant. That's why I'm like, what's it doing? You could see that it'd be very difficult to see what the part actually looked like with all these additional hidden lines. So we are not going to add all of those. We're going to create a section view. But we will show this one because when we cut this straight in half, it cuts this hole in half, and that's a good visual for us. So let's first go ahead and get our cutting plane on. So we need to create another layer. And it's called cutting plane. And let's go ahead and make it magenta. I don't know, I just like that. And the line type is not a solid line, it's called a phantom line, which is very similar to a center line, except it's long dash, short dash, long dash. Make sure we choose that one and select OK. And then we'll go ahead and make it active. And we'll create our line. We want to line it right up, and a cutting plane line is exactly what it sounds like. If I took this out to a bandsaw and I cut it, that's our cutting plane line. That would be the line that we cut across. So if I cut right across there, you'll see it intersects that circle, or excuse me, that hole, right? So go ahead and make that our hidden line because we can see our line. And again, we only want to place hidden lines over here on holes that we're cutting through its entirety. Same thing with this one here. Actually, I don't even have my construction line drawn, but I'll add it. Here's the quadrant here, just bring it straight over. Just like this here. But you can imagine having all these intercrossing hidden lines. Let's take our construction lines off. It's still kind of hard to tell from the side view what this piece actually looks like. So it actually would make more sense if we created a section view. So again, once we put this cutting plane in here, we're telling everybody that this view over here is no longer going to be a right side view. It's going to be a section view of this part. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to choose which way we're actually going to look at this part. And we have to add a leader line. Okay, so we're going to add a leader line, which is going to give us our, excuse me, not add leader line, add a leader line. It's going to give us our arrows. So the first thing I want to do is I want to right click and I want to do some options. Leader landing first. And we're going to select, so wherever we click is our leader line. We just hit enter, and then we can put A for section A. And whoops, we are still on hidden lines. Let's select that and move it back to cutting plane. And then same thing over here. We're going to go ahead and do our leader line. Where we click first is going to be the end of our arrow. And you know me, I like to have everything nice and aligned, so I'm going to touch the tip of that, bring it straight down so it stays the same. And that would also be A. Let's go ahead and select this and clean it up, make sure it's all the same color. So now it's telling me that I'm going to cut this piece in half. I'm throwing this right side away and looking at it. These would be my eyes looking at that piece. So once I put that construction line, or excuse me, cutting plane in here, I then create all of these lines here now become solid object lines because I can actually see the edge where I cut the hole. I can see the edge of this hole. I can see the edge of this hole going down through. So I can just select them all and I can turn them into a solid line. Now we do have to remove some things because if I cut through here, we no longer see these two lines because we're cutting through that cylinder here. Now to distinguish this from, a solid line and what we're doing, we have to create what's called section lines. So we're going to type in section. I'm going to leave it as purple, but I'm going to make it a continuous solid line again. So we're going to go ahead and be on our section lines, and we're going to create what's called a hatch pattern. So when you cut through metal or wood or whatever, it leaves kind of like saw marks. And that's basically what we're going to create here. And we're just going to use the ANSI 31 as our standard. So you just make sure it's highlighted. And then we're going to make sure select is highlighted. Pick points are highlighted. So anywhere that has a closed surface is going to have those hatch marks. There we go, to create our section line. Once we're finished, we close our section or close our hatch. And there is our sectioned view. We're not quite finished because we do need to add our center lines. So we'll write center here. And let's make this one blue. And we had to change from continuous to center. And you'll find it's probably easier at this point to create your set of layers and stick with them as we move through the course, because everything else that we do, unless otherwise noted, should be dimensioned. So we're going to go ahead and change, not dimension, sorry, should have different layers. So from our center view, excuse me, our front view, from our center of our circle, let's bring our circle over, create our center line, do the same thing on the other side. Go. Create our center line. We did not extend it up far enough. We need to go a little bit further. And then last but certainly not least, the center of this hole going through. And let's make sure it's nice and aligned with both sides, and just keeps it nice and clean. And that's how you create a section view. This will be part 1 of the video. Part 2 will be how to add dimensions.